Yo guys, Vision here, bringing you the full Magneto guide following the latest Season 2 update, breaking down all of his abilities, including his newly added team-up, and addressing both his strengths and weaknesses. This is episode 14 of my new Hero Series guides, with all of the previous episodes on my channel, and on that note, let's get right into it. So Magneto is a Vanguard in this game who acts as a shielding tank, a primary tank, utilizing his metallic curtain, his metal and iron bulwark abilities to protect both himself and his teammates. He is responsible for damage mitigation whilst also having a great damage output, and his ultimate is really good to shutting down the likes of defensive ultimates on the other team, such as Cloak and Dagger and the Invisible Woman. He has a 650 base health with a movement speed of 6 meters per second, which is pretty standard throughout all of the characters. As for his primary attack, he has the Iron Volley, which has an ammo count of 10, also known as charges, with a maximum distance of 25 meters, and this actually deals 40 damage on the initial impact. However, the spell field damage at its center deals only 40, whereas if you deal splash damage, this drops it down massively by 50% to 20 damage overall if it's not a direct hit, essentially. So basically, you want to be trying to target the actual player rather than trying to hit the floor or walls or anything next to that player. But also, you need to understand the iron rings on Magneto's back, which has a 4-second charge per ring, and utilizing his L1 ability to then fire his mag cannon, which deals the following damage. So once you build up one ring, you will deal 40 damage. If you have 2 rings on your back, you'll deal 65 damage. And if you have all 3 rings, so it's fully charged, you'll deal 90 damage with this L1 ability. And when it's fully charged, the iron ring has a 6 meter knockback distance, which is really useful, especially for point pressure and alleviating other likes of Wolverine and Iron Fist and other diving style players, to just push them away, to stop them jumping onto your backline, protecting your healers and also yourself. Now, also utilizing his metallic curtain, known as his L2 ability, which is used to block all incoming projectile damage, which has a 3-second cooldown, and it's pretty much the main go-to ability for this character when you're trying to be a defensive tank and a shielding tank, because as I said, he is a primary tank in this game, and in this new meta with the likes of Emma Frost, he is going to be a constant used Vanguard in this game. I mean, in Season 1, he was already a very commonly used Vanguard anyways, but with the addition of Emma Frost, he is definitely going to be a top 3, if not the most frequently used Vanguard in the game, just based on his new addition for the team ability, which I'll go over shortly, and as well as him being a primary tank anyways. Now, as well as this, utilizing his other shields or wards, or also known as bubbles as people call them, such as his circle ability, which is his iron bulwark, where he conjures an iron shield around himself, and any damage taken will then transform into iron rings on his back, and then basically you can constantly transfer any damage that you're absorbing into damage output, which is a really useful combo. Now, the shield value of this is 300. The ability has a 12-second cooldown. However, this cooldown is shared with his other ability, which I'll go over shortly, that is used for teammates, and the special effect of both of these abilities is that the shield grants 1 charge of Iron Ring on his back for every 100 damage that it absorbs, and you want to use this ability on yourself or a teammate after using your mag cannon as entry, and then therefore you're applying it for your teammates to help them protect them during a fight. You can deal damage using your L1, your mag cannon, also using your Iron Volley, and then go back to shielding yourself after when the cooldown is reset. That is pretty much the sort of combo that you want to be sort of getting in the hang of. And then going on to the other ward or the other shield is his R1 ability, known as Metal Bulwark, where effectively you just conjure the same shield, the same 300 shield value onto a teammate instead. Again, as I mentioned, it shares the cooldown between the 2 abilities, so just consider that. But the distance of this is 20 meters, so you can protect teammates from quite far away, and it has a 2.5-second duration, and also, as I mentioned, a 12-second cooldown. Now, as for his passive ability, this is pretty poor because, in my opinion, this is where Magneto, I guess, is not overpowered in the sense that he lacks mobility, and the passive itself is called Magnetic Descent, and effectively just allows him to free fall so it can slow himself down. So if you're high up on a map, such as the Iron Throne Room, or anything where you can sort of be higher up about, you can fall down slowly whilst free firing, dealing damage, and it's harder for the enemies to hit you. But that's the only time I think this ability has ever helped me out, and I get it, he would definitely be overpowered with flight in this game, so you'd probably have to reduce his overall health or something like that if that ever happened. So I totally get why it's not overpowered. It's just pretty poor and not really exciting at all. Now, as for the ultimate ability, this is probably one of the most highly anticipated ultimates in the game, as it is effectively a counter for other defensive ults. It draws in all materials around you to forge an iron meteor that deals a massive amount of damage upon impact, absorbing enemy projectiles, which can enhance its power, basically increasing the damage. Yet if you absorb too much damage, it overloads it and causes it to self-destruct. So you have to time this right and figure out when your moments are best suited, i.e. taking out defensive ult immediately once it is used. It has a 15-meter radius, so it absorbs a crazy amount of damage in a certain area, especially on the objective game modes. It is a 4-second duration and costs 3,100 energy. Initially, the ability itself, or the meteor, once thrown, has a 5-meter radius. However, after charging it for 4 seconds, it expands up to 8 meters in radius. So if you throw it at an enemy, there's a very likely chance that you hit them, as long as it's sort of direct. And now, as for the damage, the base damage at the center of this spell field starts at 100 and increases to 300 when it's fully charged after 4 seconds. However, for each then projectile damage that you absorb, the power increases by 0.125, effectively with a maximum absorption of 800 projectile damage. That is basically the summary of that ultimate and how you can understand exactly when to use it and also how effective it is. But like I mentioned, it's really useful for shutting down the likes of healers. Even if you necessarily don't hit them in the ultimate, you can still damage them, and if you coordinate it with another teammate or another teammate ultimate, you will effectively be able to shut them down. Now, as for the newly added team-up ability that everyone is talking about, this is called Magnetic Resonance, where Emma Frost can form a mental link with both Magneto and Psylocke, calling on her to create projections, which effectively, when they're together, Emma Frost will create a mental projection of Magneto and Psylocke, forming a duplicate illusion in the enemy's perspective that confuses the enemies by moving and casting abilities of their own in their own sort of free roam and free mode sort of style, which is really cool and definitely unique in its own. Upon release of this ability, Magneto can basically duplicate illusions of himself and become invisible, and the damage dealt by the projection is reduced and it basically disappears after taking a specific amount of damage. The duplicate damage reduction is 70% and the max damage received of 150 and has a 30-second cooldown of this ability. The old team up was called Metallic Chaos with Scarlet Witch, which has actually been temporarily removed from the game in Season 2. It could likely come back in later seasons to change up the meta, but this was a really cool ability that gave him an energy sword. I won't go over it in too much detail because it's no longer in use, but it was a cool ability and just for you to be aware of the previous team-ups if you weren't already. That's pretty much it as a character guide. In summary, he is a really cool primary tank in this game. I have him Lord. He's one of my favorite characters to use for various reasons, but all round he's a great tank. He of course lacks mobility, but he makes up for that with his shielding value and of course his damage output that he can deal. My favorite part is just being able to use the bubbles, as the people call them, the mini shields that you can apply to someone in a crucial moment, i.e. placing it on a Scarlet Witch to allow her to accelerate into her ultimate to protect her for a short period of time, whilst it allows her to then push into a position to utilize that massive explosion that she deals. And stuff like that makes it really cool, and I've got some really cool clips and memories of it. But anyways, there you have it guys, that's the full guide. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let me know down below if you have any comments or any alterations to this video, or any tips and tricks that you've learned along the way using Magneto ahead of this Season 2 update. I'm Visionist Jin, and I'll see you in the next one.